I'm only human, y'all. I'm only human, y'all. I'm only human, y'all. I'm only human, y'all. Hey, listen to me. Hey, when they push you down, you got to give. I'm only human, y'all. Hey, when they push you down, you got to give. I'm just a human, brush the dirt off your jersey, then go.
Hello, this is Speak Up, where you learn how to make yourself heard. Thank you for joining us on the program. I am Zuhur Fauzi, and in the studio with me is your teacher, Jackson Okello.
Hello.
This series is for learners in classes organized by the Africa Educational Trust, and in it, you'll be learning how to speak, read, and write English. This is Lesson 1. And Jackson, what will our learners learn today?
Learners, you are going to learn about the present tense for things people do in the present.
So, the learners will hear about the present simple?
That's right, Zuhur. For example, I speak English. I work in South Sudan. And I live in South Sudan.
So, the learners can say, we live in South Sudan.
Yes.
And they can say, we speak some English.
Exactly. And learners, when I ask you, I want you to speak English while you are listening to the radio program.
So there will be times in the program when the learners will need to speak out loud, and we will leave a silence for them to talk.
Exactly. Learners, I want you to try that now. First, listen to Zuhur and me. Zuhur will ask a question and I will repeat it.
What is his name?
What is his name? Now, learners, after Zuhur says the question again, I want you to repeat the question out loud.
Here is the question. What is his name?
Learners, I want you to try that again. Zuhur will ask the question again and then, learners, you all repeat the question.
What is his name? Now I'm going to say the answer, and then you want the learners to repeat the answer?
That's right.
Here is the answer. His name is Jackson.
Learners, when Zuhur says the answer again, I want you to say the answer again.
His name is Jackson.
So the question is?
What is his name?
And the answer is?
His name is Jackson.
You'll hear more examples of questions and answers in the program.
And today in the program, you'll hear from a cattle keeper about the benefits of keeping cattle.
Well, we have so many other things we get from cows. We get meat from the cow, we get leather from the cow, and also we get butter from the cows. These are the most important things we keep cows.
From a mother who takes time to choose the food she cooks for her family.
Like the greens has vitamin and it can also work good in your body whenever you eat. And the meat has some protein that it can apply it in the body and it will help the body.
And you'll be hearing how children like playing football and how it is good for them.
Games and sport master can make children to be popular outside. Above all, let's talk of biological concept in terms of health. Football can make children to become better and better in terms of muscle pulls.
Before the interview about a cattle keeper, here is Jackson.
Thank you, Zuhur. Learners, today you'll learn some English words. In this interview, you'll hear the words work, job, name, and keep cattle. They are written in your workbook.
Jackson, you want the learners to do something as they listen.
I do, Zuhur. Learners, I want you to listen for the answers to these questions about a cattle keeper. Does he keep cattle? What is his name? Does he work as a teacher? What is his job? Does he keep cows or does he keep goats? Does he keep cattle along the river in the dry season?
But first, Jackson, you want the learners to repeat the questions about the cattle keeper after I say them.
That's right, Zuhur.
So you want the learners to repeat the questions about the cattle keeper after I say them?
Yes, And learners, I want you to repeat the questions out loud.
Does the speaker keep cattle? What is his name? Does he work as a teacher? What is his job? Does he keep cows or does he keep goats? Does he keep the cattle along the river in the dry season? Now the learners will hear the interview.
Yes.
And after the interview, you want the learners to say the answer to each question?
That's right, Zuhur.
Most people here value cattle, but how much do we know about the lives of people who keep cattle? In a busy market at Custom in Juba, Majak McCoy Majush spoke to Julio Malak Ray, who is a cattle keeper.
What is your name?
My name is Julio Malak Rui.
What is your work?
Yeah, my occupation is a cattle keeper.
Why do we keep cattle?
One, we keep cattle for marriages. Two, we keep cattle to get meat and milk. Three, we keep cattle for the compensation of a dead person to pay in order to settle the problem.
What are the other things we get from cows?
Well, we have so many other things we get from cows. We get meat from the cow, we get leather from the cow, and also we get butter from the cows. These are the most important things we keep cows.
How do you feed your cattle?
We are feeding our cattle through free grazing, especially these small cattle. We feed them zero grazing cattle camp because we should not allow the small calves to move around while they don't know how to graze. We keep them tied on their figs until they grow up. We release them to go and graze the pastures free. We have a free movement anyway.
What is pasture?
Pasture is the grass where we feed our cows.
What is milking?
Milking is the process of removing milk from the cows.
What can we make out from milk?
Yeah, we have so many other things we make out from the milk. One, we have butter. We make it from the milk. Two, we have ghee. We make it also from milk. Three, we also make something called powder milk from the milk.
Where do you keep cattle?
We have two ways to keep cattle. One, during the dry season, we keep our cattle along the river in order to get water. Two, during the rainy season like this, we keep on moving from place to place to look for the green pasture to get to satisfy our cows. We are like nomadic people. We keep on moving from place to place. But during dry season, we keep our cows along the river and no moving from place to place.
That was Majak McCoy with cattle keeper Julio Malak Ray. So, Jackson, the learners have listened to the interview, and now you want the learners to listen to you and me?
That's right. Learners, I want you to listen to me and Zuhur. Here is an example of a question and answer. Zuhur, does he work as a cattle keeper?
Yes, he does.
Now, learners, can you now answer the questions about the cattle keeper I asked you before the interview? I'll say the questions again, and I want you to say the answers out loud. Does he keep cattle? What is his name? Does he work as a teacher? What is his job? Does he keep cows or does he keep goats? Does he keep the cattle along the river in the dry season?
So, what are the answers, Jackson?
I hope you all said in answer to the questions.
Does he keep cattle?
Yes, he does.
What is his name?
His name is Julio.
Does he work as a teacher?
No, he doesn't.
What is his job?
He is a cattle keeper.
Does he keep cows or does he keep goats?
He keeps cows.
Does he keep the cattle along the river in the dry season?
Yes, he does.
Now, Jackson, you want the learners to do another activity.
Yes, learners, look at a cattle keeper in your workbook.
Teachers, can you make sure everyone has found the right place, please?
Learners, in your workbook, you will see questions and answers with yes or no. I'm going to ask questions and I want you to answer.
So, Jackson, you're going to ask questions, then the learners say the answers out loud?
That's right.
And the short answers will begin with yes or no?
Yes.
So, if the question is, does he work? The answer is,
Yes, he does.
and if the question is, does he work in a school? The answer is,
No, he doesn't.
and the learners begin with yes or no.
Exactly. Now, learners, I want you to listen to my questions and then give your answers out loud. First question. Does the cattle keeper keep cattle? I hope you said, yes, he does. The next question. Does the man keep goats?
The answer,
No, he doesn't. The next question. Does he keep cattle along the river in the dry season?
the answer,
Yes, he does. The next question is different. It begins with, is he?
and the listeners answer with yes, he is, or no, he isn't.
Correct. Learners, the question is he a cattle keeper?
The answer,
Yes, he is. Next question. Is he a teacher?
the answer.
No, he isn't.
You're listening to Speak Up. Make yourself heard.
Can you hear me?
Now, we are moving on to the next interview. We are going to hear about a mother who cooks. Jackson, are there words you want the learners to listen for?
Yes, Zuhur. Learners, look at the interview A Mother Who Cooks in your workbook. The words are written at the beginning.
Teachers, can you make sure the learners have found the right place, please?
You can see the words cook, live, buy, and food. You will hear these words in the interview.
And Jackson, what do you want the learners to do as they listen?
Learners, I want you to listen for answers to these questions about a mother who cooks. What is her name? Where does she live? Does she cook meat? Does she buy food? Does she cook for her child? Does she cook food in a garden? Where does she cook the food?
But first, Jackson, you want the learners to repeat these questions after me.
Yes. Learners, after Zuhur, I want you to repeat the questions out loud.
What is her name? Where does she live? Does she cook meat? Does she buy food? Does she cook for her child? Does she cook food in a garden? Where does she cook the food? Learners, you will hear the questions again after the interview. We all love well-cooked food. But Not everyone can prepare such meals. A mother who often cooks for her family shares her experience with Kenny Evans.
What is your name?
I'm called Rose Joan Edward.
Where do you live?
I live in Kaitarawa.
Can you explain what is food preparation?
Food preparation is like, for example, if you buy food from the market, like greens, if you buy this green, you need to first remove the heart, whatever, out. After removing, then you heat them. After heating them, then you wash. After washing, you put on fire. You put on the saucepan.
Can you mention the example of food that you often prepare?
Yeah, one example is green, and two is this green dodo, and the third one is meat, and the fourth one is fish, and so forth.
Why do you like to prepare that?
I like because they have some proteins, like the greens has vitamin, and it can also work good in your body whenever you eat. And the meat has some protein that it can apply it in the body and it will help the body.
How do you prepare that?
Like the meat I prepare from the market after buying it, and then you come and heat. After heating it, you wash. After washing, you add the onions. After heating the onions, you add the tomato. After heating the tomato, you pour oil to the saucepan. After pouring the oil to the saucepan, the oil have already boiled. Then you pour the onions. After pouring the onions, and then you pour the tomato. After frying the tomatoes, then you pour the meat inside there, and then you fry the meat. You fry the meat. After frying the meat until you have seen that the oil of the meat have come out, the tomato is already producing some oil, and then you pour some water inside, then you make it to boil for long.
What kind of food is good for feeding a baby?
The kind of food that which is good for baby, one is like the soup of the fish is good for the baby. Like if the baby take the fish, the soup of the fish, the baby body will become okay. That's one food which is best for the baby.
Where is the best place for food to be prepared?
The best place for preparing food is the kitchen place.
Why is that the best place to prepare food?
That is the best place because normally women, like if you have a home, you don't need to expose yourself to cook outside and to put some other thing outside, like a wind can come and blow the scents into the food, and sometimes the food will not be fine. So we choose a kitchen to be best for cooking a food is because it is a hovering place and nothing can interfere with the food. The food will be clean inside there.
As the saying goes, good food, happy family. That was Rose Joan Edward talking to Kenny Evans. So, Jackson, we've listened to the interview. What do you want the learners to do now?
Thank you, Zuhur. Learners, I want you to listen to me and Zuhur.
You will ask the question and you want me to answer?
Yes. The first question. Zuhur, is she a mother?
Yes, she is.
Zuhur, does she have a child?
Yes, she does.
Learners, can you now answer the questions I asked before the interview? After I ask each question, say the answers out loud. What is her name? Where does she live? Does she cook meat? Does she buy food? Does she cook for her child? Does she cook food in a garden? Where does she cook the food?
And what are the answers, Jackson?
I hope you all said in answer to the questions.
What is her name?
Her name is Rose.
Where does she live?
She lives in Haitarawa.
Does she cook meat?
Yes, she does.
Does she buy food?
Yes, she does.
Does she cook for her child?
Yes, she does.
Does she cook food in a garden?
No, she doesn't.
Where does she cook food?
She cooks food in a kitchen.
Now, Jackson, there's another activity you want the learners to do?
Yes, Zuhur, there is. Learners, look at the sentences about the mother. The mother lives in Haitarawa. She buys food from the market. She cooks the food in a kitchen. All the sentences have verbs.
The verbs are live, buy, and cook.
Exactly. Learners, in the present simple tense, you say, I live. You live. We live. They live.
But he, she, and it are different.
Yes. After he, you say, he lives. After she,
She lives,
yes. And after it,
it lives.
exactly. Learners, you can see and hear that the verbs have an S on the end.
Live changes to she lives. Buy changes to she buys. And cook changes to she cooks.
Yes. So, learners, when you begin with he, she, or it, you put S on the end of the verb. Now, learners, I'm going to say some sentences and I want you to change the verb and begin the sentence with she.
So, for example, if you say, live in South Sudan, the answer will be, she lives in South Sudan.
Exactly. If I say work in the house,
The answer the learners should give is, she works in the house.
learners, here is the first for you to make a sentence. Buy food from the market. I hope you said she buys food from the market. The next, cook food in a kitchen.
The sentence?
She cooks food in a kitchen.
The next?
Cook food for her child.
The answer?
She cooks food for her child.
And the last sentence?
Live in Haitarawa.
The sentence?
She lives in Haitarawa. Learners, there are more sentences in your workbook. Your teacher will do this with you after the program.
You're listening to Speak Up. Make yourself heard. Now our last interview.
Learners, I want you to look at the interview a teacher who teaches football in your workbooks.
Teachers, can you make sure that learners have found the right place, please? Jackson, what are the words you want the learners to listen out for?
Learners, the words are written in your workbook. They are teach, play, like, and football. You will hear these words in the interview.
And Jackson, what do you want the learners to do as they listen?
Learners, I want you to listen for answers to these questions about a teacher who teaches football. These are the questions. What is his name? Where does he live? Is he an English teacher? Is he a sport and games teacher? Does he teach football? Do the children like football? Do girls play football?
But first, you want the learners to repeat these questions after me.
Yes, learners. I want you to repeat the questions after Zuhur out loud.
What is his name? Is he an English teacher? Is he a sport and games teacher? Does he teach football? Do the children like football? Do girls play football? Learners, you will hear the questions again after the interview. You know the situation. You're walking along the road and see children kicking a football. Have you ever thought about how playing football is good for them? Jaina Jerisa Evans spoke to a sports teacher and football coach.
I'm Mr. James Pitia.
Where do you live?
I live at a cinema.
What is your job?
My job, I'm a teacher by profession. At the same time, games and sport master for Usuratuna Basic School.
Why did a child enjoy playing football?
Yeah, actually, the child can enjoy football when there's good motivation from the coach, the team manager. Then, secondly, if there's good skills applied for the players. At the same time, games and sport master can make children to be popular outside. Above all, let's talk of biological concept in terms of health. Football can make children to become better and better in terms of muscle pulls and to become healthy in other sicknesses around.
Give me some examples of exercise you use in training your children.
Introduce warm-up activities which can make the body to become ready for any activities. Then perhaps there's hand overheads where they clasp their hand while jogging around. Then one of the games is frog jumps, perhaps to make the muscles and the joints ready for any competitions.
What are the games the children like to play?
Mostly children like football, both girls and boys in my school. Since I joined the school, of course, I introduced girls also to football competitions. Then perhaps we have volleyball, where they play just around the compound. Then there is discus, where they also mostly like to play. Then is skipping, perhaps most of the young ones who cannot even age of 5 to 7, they like is skipping rope, where they sing ear and ear. That's most of the games that I really introduced in the school, and they most like it.
So, maybe the children in the street are learning something. That was Jaina Jerisa Evans talking to sports teacher James Pitia. We've listened to the interview. Jackson, what do you want the learners to do now?
Thank you, Zuhur. Learners, can you now answer the questions I asked before the interview? After I ask each question, say the answers out loud. What is his name? Is he an English teacher? Is he a sport and games teacher? Does he teach football? Do the children like football? Do girls play football?
And what are the answers, Jackson?
I hope you all said in answer to the questions.
What is his name?
His name is James.
Is he an English teacher?
No, he isn't.
Is he a sport and games teacher?
Yes, he is.
Does he teach football?
Yes, he does.
Do the children like football?
Yes, they do.
Do girls play football?
Yes, they do.
You're listening to Speak Up. Make yourself heard.
Can you hear me?
Next week, you'll be hearing about cultures in our country, about wildlife, and about markets. And what English will the learners learn, Jackson?
In the next lesson, learners, you are going to practice the present simple tense in the positive and the negative.
Now, before the end of the program, we've got another interesting fact. What's the difference between African elephants and Asian elephants? Do you know, Jackson?
No, I don't know.
Well, African elephants are larger than Asian elephants. And African elephants also have larger ears and larger tusks. Now, your teacher will help you to practice the language you've learned in the program and to complete the exercises in your workbook. Before we go, have you anything more you'd like to say, Jackson?
I hope you enjoy your lesson and goodbye.
Thank you for listening, and bye-bye from me, Zuhur.
me.